All right, let's talk about Spain, a country with this amazing culture and an incredibly deep history. But what if part of that history has a much, much darker side? Today, we're digging into a really provocative argument. Was Spain history's worst colonizer? When you think of Spain, what comes to mind? It's probably this, right? Gorgeous cities, flamenco, incredible food, just a rich heritage that people from all over the world come to see. It's a celebrated modern European nation. But the argument we're going to explore today asks us to look past all that beauty to a really brutal history of conquest. A history that, according to some, makes Spain one of the worst colonizers the world has ever seen. Now that is a huge claim to make. So what's the case against the Spanish Empire? Let's break down the evidence behind it. The argument really boils down to three main points: a legacy built on erasing history, committing brutal massacres, and completely forcing a new identity onto entire populations. So let's start with erasing history. For so many of the nations that Spain colonized, their written history just starts the moment the Spanish arrive. Why? Because the records, the cultures, the traditions that existed before were pretty much systematically destroyed. It's like a deliberate blank slate was created. Second, the massacres were absolutely brutal. The conquests were just physically devastating. Just take Argentina. After centuries of Spanish control, what percentage of its population today do you think is of native origin? It's just 2 to 3%. Think about that number for a second. And then there's the third point, the total remaking of an entire people's identity. This quote really says it all. Imagine your country being named after the king of your colonizer. That's the Philippines. The goal clearly wasn't just to take over land. It was to erase what was there and replace it with something new, from their language and religion right down to their names. But here's where the story gets way more complicated. To really understand Spain as a colonizer, you kind of have to first understand Spain as the colonized. Yeah, long before it built a global empire, Spain itself was a land that was conquered and ruled by outsiders. Just look at this timeline. It's a land in constant change. First, it was Roman. Then it was conquered by the Visigoths. In 711, it was conquered again, this time becoming the Muslim state of Al-Andalus for nearly 800 years. Each one of these conquests left a huge mark, and it all led up to this final Christian reconquest. This incredibly long and brutal conflict is known as the Reconquista. And it's so important because it forged a hardened, militant new Spanish state. And get this, in 1492, the very same year the Reconquista finally ended, this new, battle-hardened state immediately looked outward and started building its own empire overseas. But even while Spain was projecting all this power across the globe, at home, its problems were far from over. The country spent a huge chunk of its modern history in this state of near-constant chaos. Just try to follow this roller coaster. In 1873, there's a republic. 1 year later, a coup brings back the monarchy. Then, a second republic is born. That republic collapses into a bloody civil war, which then leads to a dictatorship under Franco for over 30 years. And only after that is the monarchy restored. Again. It's a history of a nation literally tearing itself apart. And here's the key takeaway from all that. The Spanish Civil War and the long Franco dictatorship that followed, they left these deep, painful scars on the nation. They created political divides that Spain is still trying to figure out today. So how does this giant collision of histories, of being both colonized and colonizer, of having this immense power while also being in total chaos, how does that shape the Spain we see today? Well, it leads to some fascinating contradictions. So if you look at the data, Spain is still a majority Catholic country. 56% of people identify that way. And that makes perfect sense, right? It's a direct legacy of its old imperial mission to spread the faith across the world. But here's where it gets really contradictory. If you look closer at that Catholic majority, you find that for every one person who actually practices the faith, there are 2 who say they're Catholic but never go to services. It's become more of a cultural identity than a deeply held belief for most. And the reason for that goes straight back to Franco. For decades under his regime, a very strict Catholicism was forced on people by the state. So, the moment that pressure was gone, Spain swung hard in the other direction, becoming incredibly secular and, today, one of the most socially progressive countries on the planet. And the paradoxes just keep on coming. Economically, Spain is a developed, high-income nation. And yet, It has the highest unemployment rate in the entire EU and a poverty rate of over 26%. It's another one of these deep contradictions that defines the country. So we're left with this puzzle. Is Spain the brutal colonizer, or is it the land that was conquered? The nation that tore itself apart, or the progressive modern democracy? Maybe the truest identity of Spain isn't found in picking just one of those answers. Maybe it's in the constant, difficult struggle to be all of those things at once. And it really makes you ask, can any nation ever truly escape its own history?